Are we recording
Loud
now,
enough.
Shelby? Okay, we are good to go. We are recording right now.
We will commence with the Parks Committee, and we'll note all members are present. Alderman Johnson, Alderman Burnett, and Alder Nicholson. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Johnson, second by Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See, I don't want to see Jesse. No, I'm kidding. Can I get an approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
If you could, let's see, was that
This is
Burnett
Brian,
and
second.
Johnson? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Can you,
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'm sorry, we didn't
Number
hear
one is
who made,
request by, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear who made the initial motion.
Nicholson.
Thank you.
Number one is request by Alder Burnett for discussion with possible action on the status of fat tire bike usage at He-Nisra Park. Director.
Yeah, so I don't know if Alderman Burnett would like to say an initial comment. Otherwise, James Anderson can give a brief update as far as what we did this winter and how we approached it.
Yes, this is Alderman Burnett. I had about 5 constituents contact me with concern about usage at Hinrisra for the fat tire bikes. And there's been another constituent helped set it up, or at least push for it to be used for that purpose. So I think there are just conflicting groups who are using it. Ideally, if we were in a different setting, I would have invited each of those constituents to address the committee. I might do that. Obviously, with the orders we have, the trail usage might have declined or perhaps increased since these things have happened. So we really don't have to go into detail that. We just give an update. I think that would be sufficient for now.
I didn't catch that last part. Did you?
You don't have to go into too much detail, just generally an update that I could share with them, and I'll probably bring this up to future meetings.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Next year.
I'm just going to do a really brief history on kind of how this came about, and then I'll go over kind of where we're at currently. So, as you guys, some of you might know, in recent years, fat tire biking has become a trend that seems to be continuing to grow in demand and popularity. With this popularity, of course, comes the increased demand for more areas and trails to, provide fat tire bikers to recreate on. So, He-Nisra Park was identified actually last year in 2019. We didn't get around to really having fat tire biking at that time, but or actually early in 2018, I should say. And then in 2019, as it came around, He-Nisra was once again kind of advocated by the Fat Tire Bike Group to really want to ride there. It's kind of one of a priority for them to have terrain that's very similar to He-Nisra with you're in the woods and you have multiple elevations. So they really wanted to of course ride there, and we kind of we ended up meeting with both bike and ski advocates at that time and came up with a plan that was agreeable, and we thought we could have both users recreate on those trails, and there was enough space, so we actually walked with our staff out there to identify areas that might have been a concern, but overall there was ample space for both users to recreate on those trails. So this year, in the end of 2019 and early in 2020 here, we had both users on those trails. And unfortunately, I will say, we didn't get a lot of evaluation because of this weird winter we had. We didn't have a lot of great snow or a lot of long-term snow. We had some, as you know from like the ice rinks, of course, we had 0 days where our ice rinks were officially open. So we had a kind of a weird winter, and we didn't get a good amount of days to really evaluate this. But from what we did experience, I'll just take you through like some of the kind of pros and cons that we saw, and also some of the feedback that we received. We received about 20 plus emails from the bike tire group or calls from the bike tire group, and all of them were very positive. They really enjoyed the park. They really thought it was kind of a perfect park to fat tire bike ride in. They even coordinated two groups, one on Sunday morning and one on Wednesday night, that met out there and had a lot of people join them. So they had anywhere from 25 to 30 people in those groups riding through Hinister Park. We received some feedback from the ski groups, also the cross-country ski groups. Both Dan and I had at least a couple emails and a couple phone calls each. But I will say there was probably more concerns from them, but there was also a couple compliments. So we did receive some concerns, but mostly it had to do with identifying, the trails and the use of each of the trails and which one was used for cross-country skiing and which one was used for biking, and just some awareness with that. So I will say some of the pros of what we saw is an increased use in people coming to the park through the fat tire bikers, and we saw some one of the cons, I will say, is that we have a lot of hikers and dog walkers that also utilize the park, and them are actually, from talking to both the ski group and the fat tire bike group, more of that causes most of the concerns with wrecking or kind of damaging some of the cross-country ski trails. So it's not necessarily from the fat tire bikers, it's from the walkers and the dog walkers, coming through and then trying to walk on the trails that are intended for cross-country skiing. So it's we have put some better signage up there, so I think that has helped a lot, and we'll continue to do that throughout this year. I think we've been continuing to work with both groups on some of their concerns. Unfortunately, we didn't, like I said, get a lot of great snow. Towards the end of the season, we did, and that's when, of course, we saw some of the concerns come in, because the cross-country skiers could actually ski because we had some snow out there finally. But we didn't have a lot of great snow this year. So some of the concerns are the ruts made by fat tire bikers, and honestly, them don't typically happen when there's actually snow and during the winter. It's more in the spring and in the fall. So we have talked about some of the challenges of that, and talked about ways to maybe not encourage people to ride when it's really muddy and mucky out, kind of similar to like it is right now probably in some areas. Overall, though, I think the one other point I want to make about this is we feel like we, as a staff, need to take on a better way of maybe doing the trails when it comes to providing. So there's a couple machines that can be used. One is called the Snow Dog, and it actually puts down both a fat tire bike trail, or fat tire bike trail and a cross-country ski trail, and it goes through the entire park, and it'll put them tracks down at the same time. What was happening this year is you'd have a snow, and then the fat tire bike group would come through and ride before our park crew guys could get out there and actually put down the actual cross-country bike trails. So you had this kind of, that's where you got some of the concern, because all of a sudden the fat tire bike group would come through with maybe their 25 riders, and then the cross-country ski group would say, well, what the heck, we would like our trail done too, but now there's no really room to do that. So we're just kind of talked to both groups and really encouraged our staff to be the ones that put down those trails, and also wait until we can get there to do that, so then both groups can have the same overall ability to recreate. That machine that I was talking about, or something similar to that, is about $4,000. That's something that we'll either have to add to our budget next year, or the other thing is, right now the Fat Tire Bike Club advocates are offering to fundraise and or donate the one they currently have. So it's about $4,000, and they're willing to either fundraise for one or have one donated and have one donated to us. So overall, I guess, I guess our evaluation on where to go from here is continue to work with both groups. And I think we need one more year, honestly, to evaluate kind of some of the concerns and trying to have both users enjoy the park. I think that it's possible from talking to both groups. I think it's just more of this awareness and continuing to work together to solve some of these concerns and challenges going forward. So that's where we're at right now.
Alder Burnett?
Yes, that's fine for now, James. Thank you for the update. For the constituents who had the concern, I will have them reach out and I'll coordinate it so you can hear what their concerns were. I think it was mostly hikers, people who were back there, not necessarily skiing, and they thought that the way that the bikers were using the trail was not very respectful of their space.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to so, but now we'll discuss it when things settle down now. So just keep that in mind. But thank you. That's all, Chairman. I don't need to.
All right, thank you, Alder. Anyone else on the committee have any questions? All right, now I'll entertain a
Motion to receive and place on file by Brunette.
Nicholson seconds it.
All right, Burnett and Nicholson, motion to receive, place on file. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Was that in favor, Alderman Nicholson, to receive and place on file?
Correct. Nicholson, aye.
Okay, thank you. We're on to number 2, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Johnson to direct the Parks Director to explore land acquisition options for the creation of a park to serve the residents on the southern end of District 9 on or near the Liberty Street and 12th Avenue corridors. Alderman Johnson.
Thank you, Alder Weary. I talked with Director Ditchett earlier today. I'm comfortable with referring this to staff so that they can do some research on this. I would add maybe a little bit of direction, specifically looking obviously for the possibility of a pocket park, anything more substantive if necessary. I think we're just looking to identify, I guess, pieces of land that would be available that are intended to serve and maybe cut out certain areas over there. You know what I mean. So I just think it would be good for that side of our community to have a park. So again, I'm comfortable referring this to the staff. Director Ditchett knows kind of what I'm looking for.
All right, did you want to add anything to that, Director?
No, I'm comfortable with that motion, so, we will, the motion, I guess, should be refer to staff to continue to research options to develop a park in that area.
Is that your motion, Alder Johnson?
Refer to staff, yeah.
Second by Burnett.
Second by Burnett. Any discussion?
Nicholson,
Those in favor?
here. Aye.
You had a question, Andy?
I do. Can this
Okay, go
land
ahead.
be developed for, I'm sorry. You got her now? Got me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Can any of this land be development or tax base? Please help me.
So what we're kind of asked to look at here by Alderman Johnson is to kind of see which properties are currently for sale in the area and see if it's feasible to develop a park on those properties. So we'll be looking at what properties are for sale, what the acquisition costs would be, and then what the development costs would be to turn it into a park.
That answer your question, Alderman Nicholson?
I'm not sure. My question is, can any of this land be developed for tax base? I don't know if I heard the answer to that.
Yeah, so ultimately, if what we're directed to do is look at it from a park standpoint, So in this case, whatever properties we would look at buying would actually come off of the tax rolls. And there would be no tax base on those properties anymore, per what's being asked of us to look into.
Chair?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Eddie. Alderman Nicholson.
Okay, I'm gonna ask it again. Can any of this property be developed for tax base? I know parks does not bring in tax base, but can any of this land be developed for tax base? I'm looking for,
Yeah,
can it or not?
I guess maybe Alderman Johnson can kind of answer this better than I can. But ultimately, in order to develop it for tax base, it would not be for a park purpose. So ultimately, what the request was from Alderman Johnson was to look at this to develop a park. So if we would look at it for something else, then we would probably get the Economic Development and Community Services Department involved and have them look at it from a tax base. But that's not what's being asked from the Parks Department to research right now.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Can you elaborate, please?
Alderman Johnson.
Alder Johnson here. You know, and I don't mean to speak for you, Alder Weary, but I know that you're concerned about some things going on in this area as well. It's very close to your district also, but Alder Nicholson, essentially what we're looking for here is the creation of a pocket park. Ideally, could be put on a piece of property that currently is not generating a significant amount of tax base to, I guess, help with some 1,500-foot setback requirement issues that we're having in that area. Those setback issues, of course, being related to the location of Chapter 980 sex offenders.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. Okay, I'm done, Chair.
Okay. Questions on this item? We had a motion and a second to refer to staff. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Motion carried. We are on to item number 3. Consideration with possible action on adopting a resolution in support of World Migratory Bird Day. Director.
Yeah,
Move, Nichols.
So Bird City, Wisconsin is a statewide group, and they encourage all communities in Wisconsin to implement sound bird conservation practices by offering public recognition to those that succeed in enhancing the environment for birds, and also educating the public about interaction between birds and people, and about the contribution that birds make to a healthy community. There's currently over 100 municipalities that are currently members of Wisconsin Bird City. The city of Green Bay has been a member for quite a number of years now. In the past, the Wildlife Sanctuary has kind of taken the lead to satisfy all of the educational components required for the mission of that group. And there is also a local group of citizens that coordinate the required activities for being a Bird City member, and they fundraise annually to continue supporting the city of Green Bay in our endeavors to remain a member. So in essence, they pay our annual dues through fundraising, plus they fundraise for other bird activities throughout the city. There's only a few requirements that Wisconsin Bird City requires to retain membership. One of which of those is that each municipality has to adopt a resolution in support of World Migratory Bird Day. So I've attached a copy of the resolution in the agenda packet for your review. But ultimately, if you read through the resolution in detail, there's basically a lot of statements in that resolution indicating that the City Council supports the importance of migratory birds and recognizes the value that they bring to the city. This resolution also proclaims that the city officially recognizes May 9th, 2020 as World Migratory Bird Day in the city of Green Bay. So in the past, the Wildlife Sanctuary has held an annual event promoting the importance of this day, and our intention is to continue this practice. Due to the current restrictions from the virus, we're not sure when this event will take place, but we're hopeful we can have the event later this summer or into the fall. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. So what I'm recommending is that you approve adopting the resolution in support of World Migratory Bird Day.
All right, thank you, Director. Any questions from the committee?
Move to
All right,
approve. Burnett.
motion by Alder Burnett to approve. And is there a second?
Second.
Nicholson, second, if I heard correctly.
Yes.
Discussion? Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 4, consideration with possible action on the purchase of 601 St. George Street, parcel 7-709 for the expansion of the East River Trail connection. Director?
Yeah, so ultimately I sent everybody additional information on this topic yesterday. I know some of you haven't had a chance to review it. So what I would recommend is we just go into closed session in regards to this topic to discuss the negotiation and the purchase of a property for the expansion of the East River Trail.
This is Johnson. I move we go into closed session.
There's a motion by Alderman Johnson to go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second by Burnett.
Second, Burnett. Discussion? Those in favor?
Committee may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85, subsection I, subsection E, Wisconsin statute for purpose of deliberating and negotiating the sale of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The committee may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 2, Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Oh, yeah, discuss.
All right. And just for the record, the vote on that, was everyone in favor? Aye.
No, negative.
Yes.
Nicholson,
Okay,
nay.
3-1.
That,
Okay,
Okay.
we're in closed session.
is not closed.
Apologies,
think that
Alder
was-
Weary. I
Can't you send
Go
it to
ahead,
council?
Alder Nicholson.
Okay, we are now recording, so now you can make your motion to go back into open session.
Okay, we had a motion by Alder Johnson, second by Alder Burnett to return to open session. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are in open session. And what's the wishes of the committee?
Point of order.
Go ahead, Alder
Sure.
Nicholson.
Why don't you send it off to council?
Yep, go ahead.
No records.
Is that your motion, Alder Nicholson?
No, well, may as well. Get it to the council, we'll discuss it there. That's my opinion.
All right, thank you. Is there a
I
motion
would move that.
by a
I would
member?
move that we approve the recommendation made by staff in closed session.
All right, motion by Alder Johnson to approve as discussed in closed session. Is there a second? I will second that. Under discussion, we have a motion and a second, Johnson and Weary, to approve. Discussion. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nicholson, no.
Burnett, no.
Okay. That's 2-2. We will forward this to council with that recommendation. 2-2.
Okay.
Unless there's any other motions from the committee. Okay. Then we're on informational director's report.
Just kind of going back here, I guess, if it's 2-2, does it, is it passing with no recommendation, or is it passing as failed?
I guess it would be passing as failed then, wouldn't it?
Okay, we'll keep it that way then, unless you want to change that.
Or does the chair chair have the ability to cast a tie-breaking decision on that? I don't know.
No.
All
I
right.
don't think that committee, Okay, director's report.
All right, the only thing that I really want to touch bases on is the Parks Department as it relates to the new governor's orders and the coronavirus. So, per the orders, the public can go into the parks for activities such as walking, biking, hiking, or running, as long as they practice social distancing requirements. Individuals cannot engage in team or contact sports such as basketball, soccer, or football, or any similar type activities, because those do not comply with the social distancing requirements. In addition, we're mandated to close all zoos, playgrounds as part of the order. So currently, the parks are open for people to use for walking, biking, hiking, and running, but all of the playgrounds, shelters, and structured activities and programs are closed until April 24th or further notice. Also, the Whitney Dog Park and Joanne Skate Park are also closed due to the social distancing issues. And then as far as the wildlife sanctuary goes, on March 17th, we did close all of the buildings and animal exhibits, and those will continue to be closed due to the governor's orders through at least April 24th. The trails at the sanctuary, though, are currently open to the public, and we are going to be evaluating that on a daily basis. If we find that just too many people are coming into that location and just utilizing too many people in too small of a space, we may reevaluate that at some point over the next month. But for right now, the trails at the sanctuary are open. One thing we do have to do, though, is we are going to stop admitting animals, injured animals at the sanctuary. So that went into place today. The primary reason for that is if you've ever been in that animal rehab area, it's a very tight quarters. Basically it's difficult to impossible to satisfy the social distancing requirements if we continue to take more animals. So basically, the more animals you have, the more volunteers we have to let into the facility to help take care of those animals. And as it is, they're tripping over each other with how it was when we do accept animals. So we are going to have to limit that. So as far as our park crews and forestry crews, so the parks are an essential function for the city because the public is still able to use the parks. So we still have to keep them maintained and open and in good shape to make it safe for the public to use. So our park crews and forestry crews are still working and will continue to do so. We have implemented, like I said, social distancing precautions for our staff, so they typically work alone or in safe distances from each other. So just wanted to give everybody an update on our parks as it relates here in case you have any questions from your constituents. So that's all that I have for the division report.
Questions from the committee?
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Nicholson,
Bruno, second.
second by Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Next park committee tentatively scheduled April 8th. And
Motion
can I get
to
a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn? Motion by Nicholson to adjourn.
Second, Burnett.
Second Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
everybody.